So I'm talking to you. It's the middle of spring practice right now. It's the third weekend, fourth weekend in March. But the last time most of America saw you is the ending of the national championship game.
Right.
So very, very briefly, one-word answer if you want to. Describe life in the immediate aftermath of that. And like realistically as a human, how long does it take before you say, all right, 2026 season, let's go?
One word between that time and now: relentless. Every part of every process. And that's a quick turn the page. I mean, because you're already behind on every aspect of recruiting, right? You're going to have to start your off-season program a little bit later. And that's already mapped out and planned out, but it still requires a lot of, logistical just adjustments. So it just hasn't stopped, and in a good way, but you do find time to assess every game you play, even that one, especially being the last game. And even though your team, part of it graduates and moves on, and some of your coaches move on, you do, and you attack that like you attack anything else and find ways to get better.
What's the difference in knowing, all right, we don't have another game after this. You're still going to go back. You're going to break down film pretty meticulously, but you're not prepared. You're not preparing that team for anything more. So you're basically learning about yourself. You're learning about players who are going to come back. But what's the difference in that process versus a normal game week process?
Just more time. Because however someone came at you, anything that someone did successfully against you, it's gonna show up again until you fix it. So, and then things that you did successfully are gonna be attacked as well. So there's not much difference. There's just a lot of time where self-scout now becomes part of that game as well. So it's a pretty meticulous process that lasts about 3 weeks in terms of self-assessment, self-evaluation as it relates to our schemes and our players.
And then that backs you up. So that's the third week of January. In some cases, your quote-unquote off-season is starting over a month after other people's has started.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're going to start spring ball usually like somewhere in March. From your seat, like how does that affect the way you run an organization?
Yeah, it's different. We did a lot of research as it relates to teams that have had really long runs, successful runs.
And not just even in college, right?
No, both, I would say the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, I mean, everybody. We've been able to take a deep dive into teams that have had long runs and what they did the following year and how it related to their offseason. And so we just picked it apart and put it together as we saw fit for our guys. And so the guys that had, a certain amount of plays or over a certain amount of plays, they had an extra couple of weeks of just regeneration. I'm talking about the hyperbaric chambers, right? The massage therapy, mobility work, active conditioning, but getting their bodies right. And the guys that didn't play as much or just got here, they went right into an 8-week off-season program. So, and we've seen that, as we start spring ball, we look like we're in pretty good shape physically. And there's been no physical, banged up hangover. It feels like our guys are in a good place and are ready to attack it.
I know one of the things that has just driven you crazy to an extent the last couple of years was no problem starting fast as a team. But then there was this point a couple of times in the season where you feel, I don't know, it feels a little off. I'd watch you and, man, that doesn't look like what it looked like in week 1 or week 2. And last year there was this point. I was at the game. I was at the SMU game. And it doesn't go your way. And you're wondering, is that about to happen again? Is that in the process of happening again? And then you end up playing boom, 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 your best ball 4 weeks in a row, culminating with that Pitt game to end the year. You go into the playoffs. You do what you did against Ohio State. I mean, I'm on the outside looking in wondering, what changed? What's the difference? So what changed? Why are you able to do that last year?
Oh, I mean, I think that team meeting after the SMU game really kind of changed things. And I'll say this, there's nothing hocus pocus about our operation. I think it's very well documented. We work our butts off. We go. And we like to take a lot of pride in that. And we just weren't playing like we play. We were playing hard. Our effort, our care factor, everything was through the roof, but we weren't. It didn't look like us. And so, when we met and talked about those specific things, all we did was take those first 5 weeks and clipped out us playing Miami football, physical, violent, tough, relentless, finishing plays, just cut the lights and let it roll. And in dead silence, we watched 10 minutes of Miami playing Miami football. And by the time the lights cut back on, I mean, everybody's eyes were this big, you could feel the intensity in the room. It's like we It's not remembering who we are, it's realizing who the heck we are. And going out and making sure that on the daily, that showed up in practice. Every ounce of the standard. And so that led to just a series of high-level, physical, relentless play, particularly at the line of scrimmage, but also the dog mentality of our skill guys, their physicality. All that stuff was contagious. And I think that combination led to ourselves going on a run.
What's it like now watching the guys either who are still here on the roster or who you brought in, recruiting and portal, now that they're watching guys like Ruben Bain walk out the door or Akeem Mesidor walk out the door? It wasn't like that a few years ago. Right. You didn't have products of an environment that you hope to create as finished products. Right. But now they're watching the finished product walk out the door. So then everyone wants to talk about, okay, well, you got to replace this production, replace this leadership. Well, those players are the ones who have to do it.
That's right.
It's spring, so it's kind of early in that process. How much have you seen people start to grab that rope?
Oh, I think it was happening throughout the year. They were trying to grab the rope throughout the year, but guys like Mesidor and Ruben Bain, they don't give you any rope to grab. They're going to stay in the game. And it's so different. And I'll say why is because when we recruited those guys would wait for us outside the stadium, right? After just us getting blasted. 2022, right? That's when you have to just turn over the entire thing, and we were awful. And those guys just hung in there week after week. They were committed. They were getting blasted, negative recruited by other schools. Miami stinks. They're not going to be there, all that kind of stuff. And all they did was just say, let's go, man. Our time is coming. And those guys, when they had this group of guys during the latter part of the bowl season this past year, we had them for 2 weeks practicing with those guys. Those guys set the standard every single day. Invaluable time with those guys. And so they understand, not fully, but they saw that on the daily, and they saw the time they spent up here watching film. They saw that their interactions with their teammates were those of guys that were relentless about being champions. So it was very effective. That was contagious. So they've seen the standard. We're going to push them, and we're just going to keep our mouths shut and work to achieve that standard during spring ball. And spring ball around here is very important. We will.
You've been around as a player and as a coach, like a lot of legendary teams, but you've also gotten to experience decades later, looking back on relationships, impact you had, both individually and collectively. Those guys, they don't have that yet. They were a part of something that was very impactful, but they don't have like the decades of perspective to look back on it. But from your perspective, you kind of know, we came in here, we had to eat it for a little while. We brought in our waves of guys. We implemented our style, our everything, and now it's turned around. And the first wave of players responsible for that are leaving now. How satisfying is it to know we're in the trenches right now, but one day, 20 years from now, I'll sit down with that kid. He'll probably be an NFL Hall of Famer by that point. He's retired from the NFL, and we'll be able to look back and say, you remember early 2020s? Back at Miami, you remember what it was like? You remember what it became? Because you've been part of those kind of conversations before.
Yeah, it's awesome to think about what is to come. And we did build this team to be sustainable and to improve as the years go on, we don't stack talent behind each other. We actually appropriately select and place guys in situations and at positions where they could continually grow and develop. And we feel that we're postured to do that, okay? Now, easier said than done, like you mentioned. These guys were hardened, callous guys that went through 5-7, 7-6 to pop 10 wins and then to do what we did last year. So that part right there, there's nothing that can replace that. There's nothing that could mimic that exactly. But the way we work has to be that. And there's no better way to get the best out of someone than to provide them with the most elite competition on a daily basis and demand their very best. So that's the mode that we're in now, which is a little bit different, Like when J.J. Dunnigan walked in to practice, when Jackson Cantwell walked into practice, they were practicing with us at the Cotton Bowl.
Yep.
Okay? The guys that were playing in that game, Inez Cooper, Matt McCoy, Wesley Bassett, all right, they were getting our teeth kicked in 22. So different. But they went to practice yesterday, and all those guys that were at Pro Day, every single one was out there coaching their butts off, pushing and grinding on guys because it means that much to them. So That's a part that we really value, that besides their success, them changing the profile of the program, they had an unbelievable experience. Like they're Canes for life. And that's when like the real magic happens, right? Because that thing grows. That thing festers in a manner where it becomes just very powerful. And the momentum is something that you just can't stop.
You guys always talk about the style of practice, the attitude of a practice around here.
Mm-hmm.
People who have been around it, they always walk away talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's this, I don't know if it's a fear or a reluctance. A lot of people don't want to lean into that. Maybe not even because they're opposed to it ideologically, but because they're terrified of what it'll do to their depth if they try and practice like that.
Right.
You guys do it, and it's kind of a knock on wood situation. To a certain extent, you want to be like blessed and fortunate in the injury department,
Right,
but like
right.
you weren't terribly banged up. I would argue you played your best football at the end of the year last year.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't compute with most people. Most people would think like, okay, well, you practice that way and you're going to peak early and you're going to fade late. So how do you do one, but then also excel at the right time in the on-field come Saturday department?
Well, you got to trust your people, and it starts with a great off season, because you have to be built to be able to train in that manner. And once you train that manner, you can train a practice in that manner. And we're really physical and whatnot, but we're not reckless.
Yeah.
We never. There's a line there, and we come up to it as to how it benefits the team. But we don't go beyond that line because it's easy to be tough with somebody else's body. But I just think that on this side, there's no focus in winning social media in the off season. Our focus is to kick ass out there on Green Tree practice field, knowing that the only way to cut it loose, I'm talking about legitimately cut it loose on game day, is to earn it out there. And it is January and February and March, April, May, June, July. It's all of it. And you can't skip those steps. We have real legitimate buy-in into that. And then as the season goes on and as your team is progressing, you have to shave certain parts, but you don't compromise the physicality part. You may have to pull one guy here and there every now and then, but overall, if you watch our tape, Ruben, Akeem, they're seeking out Markel Bell, they're seeking out Francis, Inez Cooper. They're trying to find each other and go against each other. They know it's the only way to be at their best on Saturdays, and that's what we were striving for. And we feel like we're achieving that. And now that's got to permeate the locker room for the new guys, and they got a good taste of it. Jackson Cantwell's first couple reps were against Akeem Messidor and Ruben Bain, and I'm sure he'll never forget those reps, right? But I'm sure it's also put him on edge, so he understands what it really looks like at the highest level.
I know every time I talk to you, I always love talking about when you have a senior in high school, junior in high school, you're recruiting them. Mm-hmm. They've got all the physical attributes you could ever want. You love their character makeup, but you really want to have them watch you practice.
Yes, sir.
So that they know I can either be about that or I can't be about that. And I'm always interested in this. I probably asked you this a million times, but I always love talking about it. So let's say I am being recruited by you. I check all the physical boxes. You love my character makeup, not really a trouble guy off the field. Mm-hmm. And I watch you practice and I tell you all the right things. Like I lean into that. But then you get me on campus, I'm an early enrollee, and you find initially he's kind of there.
Right.
But he's not all the way in.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like, and how often do you find that to be the case where you still got to drag a kid a little bit further into the deep end and make him see, oh, he really can swim. I know he can swim. He's got to figure out he can swim.
Sure. Well, I mean, we've had a really high hit rate on high school players, and it's our job to teach. You're just not born tough, and you can't teach that in the classroom either. They got to experience it, and you've got to introduce it to them at levels where they can handle and progress and develop from. Because, I mean, when we practice and when we train, we go right to the edge. Right to the edge. It's the best way to get the most out of your guys. And then the goal is to achieve a breakthrough as opposed to a breakdown. That's where the eyes, the consistent communication, the hands-on approach, really, it goes a long way. Like here, it's about being a vocational teacher, man, I mean, you've seen us. We don't have a monster facility. We don't So that there's now the Bermuda grass outside, the blue skies, the weather, uncomparable, right? But we're now building those kind of facilities.
Yes, construction in the background as we speak.
We're building a weight room just for it so we can handle your 200-pound dumbbells, all that stuff you use. But we're now catching up in that sense, which is going to be awesome. But the cell here is still going to be the way we practice. And they got to come out and they got to watch it because it's unfiltered. It's incredibly instructional and developmental. It's also the right kind of demanding, you know?
Yeah.
And that draws the right guys. And again, it sounds good. It feels good. When not everybody, when they get here, could jump right into it and, hey, this is awesome. Guys like Ruben, they ate it up. Francis, they ate it up, but they had their days. You know, they did. And it's our job to teach them. We believe in that.
What about plugging a coach into that? I want to talk to you about hiring process in a second, but I mean, I've gone through your filtration process of how you hire. All right, well then you're plugging me in. I got to meet that every day.
Right.
I got to contribute to that. I got to be a part of that every day. By the time you figure out I'm the guy for the job, is that almost an afterthought? Like I would have never gotten to the final rounds if I probably didn't check that box.
Oh man, you know, when I was a tight ends coach here, I had an opportunity to interview with the Jets. Kevin Mangini was the head coach at the time. Actually, I saw Schottenheimer out the other day. Coach Schottenheimer was the head coach of the Cowboys because he was there at the time. And it was that 12-hour interview process that was grueling and a grind. But I left there going, this is awesome. I would love to be able to conduct a process like this if I was ever a head coach. So, yeah, we get after in the right kind of way. But you know what? Everybody grows from it. I mean, I learn a lot. The person we're interviewing learns a lot. And if it works out, there's a pretty good chance they're going to be able to adapt pretty well because aptitude, right? IQ, all that stuff, adaptability, it has to be high. It has to be in football in general. And we demand that of our coaches because they have to set the tone every day. Honestly, I don't worry as much about players. I feel like we were recruiting the right kind of mindset. I'm always investing just as much in the staff as we do the players because we do feel that at the end of the day, they set the tone on the daily, you know, and they help groom and develop leaders. You want to develop the right kind of leaders.
I remember a year ago, you would just hire Corey Heatherman.
Right.
He was about to go through his first year. We all know how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember you said, I don't want to do the comparison thing, but he may remind people a lot of when Greg Schiano got here.
Mm-hmm.
In the late 90s, I believe, whenever that was. All right, so now you've got a whole year of production under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how would you describe the impact he had on this organization?
Yeah, almost identical. You know, Coach Schiano took over a defense here and launched into the top 5, you know, and I think that was over a 2-year process. And Corey was able to come in and again, players also make a difference, but it can't be understated. He's been incredibly impactful, not only as on the field, but also off the field. His ability to just generate belief, toughness, swarming to the football, technique, fundamentals, increasing everybody's football IQ. I mean, it's awesome at night. Like his room is flooded with guys, you know, and I thought I remember seeing him and going, man, this guy looks like a Nordic Viking, something out of an old school movie. Let's get him down to South Florida because a guy like that, who's such a high level elite teacher, our players they'll sprint to that because that's what these guys want. These guys they're awesome human beings, great, just super gentlemen off the field. They are hungry dogs when it comes to ball. And that's what we recruit, you know? And so thought the match was perfect. Corey has been nothing short of awesome.
And then Shannon Dawson's been here a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a head coach at any minute, but he's still here. He's actually sitting right over our shoulders right now. I thought the thing that stood out the most last year was that Carson Beck was a radically different person
mm-hmm.
than the guy that he was replacing, Cam Ward.
Right.
But a lot of people look on a piece of paper and like a quarterback is just stats. Well, a quarterback's a person who puts up stats,
right.
But he was able to
mm-hmm.
run an offense with Cam Ward. Then you run an offense with Carson Beck, looks totally different. And now Darian Mensah comes in. I'll ask you about him in a second.
Mm-hmm.
How much value is there in your system, for lack of a better word, being malleable to the talent that are going to be placed in that system instead of being rigid?
Well, to your point, Shannon Dawson should be a head coach right now. We are beyond fortunate to have him because he's been awesome for 3 years. Not many teams in the country have had a top 25 offense for 3 consecutive years. He's made it work every which way possible. And, on the ground, through the air, adjusting to the screen game, adjusting to open sets, condensed sets, he's done it all. Year to year, it's his ability to adapt is, I think, what really stands out in the processes. You mentioned 3 different quarterbacks. Well, it's also been 3 different sets of receivers. A consistent O-line, now a different one, but different parts in there as well. Some guys were good at counter, some were good at wide zone, some were good at duo, right? A couple different coaches coming in as well that those are like his lieutenants, right? So putting all that stuff together and having that type of success requires a ton of organization, belief from the players, and flat out knowledge and IQ to put it all together and call it a certain way. The call it part's of talent. Got to be able to see the field. So he embodies all that stuff. He's another elite human being. So we're lucky as can be in terms of our coordinators. But what can I say? Both those guys have been difference makers for us.
Darian Mensah coming in here at quarterback. People are aware of him, but I don't know that America was just locked in on Tulane and Duke games. They'll be locked in on Miami games. So eventually they'll see him. But through spring and through your interactions with him so far, through vetting him in the portal, like how do you describe him as a player?
Well, by the time that we finished playing and then the portal, was still opens up. By the time we get a chance to meet him, it was very quick, but very quickly got to realize, man, he's special. Saw tape, and there's always crossover tape, so you watch him play and you're like, man, he's special.
Yeah.
Okay, and the supporting cast here has been such a huge bonus for Cam Ward, for Carson Beck, and now we feel we're supplementing our roster and Darian Mensah with a really high caliber, talent-wise. We haven't put it together. We haven't done anything yet, and we just got to shut our mouths and go to work. And I want to be upfront about saying that. But we feel that he's a really special player because he really understands ball, incredible pocket presence. He's deadly accurate. He's incredibly smart, right? I mean, he runs it, and he understands protections, and he dives into it on a daily basis well, like a pro. So quickly got the attention of our players, and if you get a chance to watch this, you'll see how much trust and how much belief he's already built in the guys around him.
For you personally, after you come out of a football season, as a coach or just as a man, what point is there where you do your own deep dive or a self-reflection, or in mid-November you realized I want to study this thing after the season ends? What point of the year does that happen? What are some things that come to mind maybe that have been fundamental changes, or maybe something new, maybe a project, or maybe a thing you've taken a deeper dive into recently?
Well, I mean, it's nonstop. It happens throughout the course of the year. You're always noting it up, and you're always taking mini dives throughout the course of the season. When you get into the off season, it's hard to find time to go and actually do site visits, though we do find time to do that. But every aspect of the game and on every single year, and anything that really bit you, you know what I mean? So it's endless. I mean, it's every aspect, and it's a very non-ego approach to it. And I'm talking about the entire staff, not just myself. We sit in there, it's like, man, these parts were good, these parts were okay, and these parts, man, it's not good enough, And that's the best part about our staff. They're very humble. They want to win, and so I would say it's nonstop. This will go all the way through the summer, and that's when you're probably, for me, in the month of May, I'm able to go see people or have people come in that I could really dive deeper into, certain aspects of the game. So, but it doesn't stop. I mean, you kind of, I'll say this on there, I'll get in trouble. You kind of plan your vacations around places you can site visit, you know what I mean? Hey, let's go to Philly. Why? Well, I'm just going to stop by, see my friends with the Eagles, and then we'll go do something really nice,
Liberty Bell, come on now.
It's one of those things. But the life of a football coach in an awesome way. There'll never be a complaint here. You have those opportunities, and you take full advantage of them.
If I were to be around you, let's say fly on the wall an entire month, so I get to see the full spectrum of your existence as a head coach, your interactions with players, staffers, assistant coaches. What are the common traits that just drive you up the wall the quickest?
That drive me up the wall in a
really bad,
in a bad way?
Way.
Oh man, oof. I, I, I can't be around people that don't love to work hard. That drives me insane. Or lack of care factor, intensity. You know, I mean, this is the best job in the world. And if you don't have a passion for it and doing everything as if it's your very own son, in my opinion, and I don't judge anybody, everybody does their own thing, but I don't think there's a place for people that don't treat this as if they're coaching their very own son. So that's what would drive me up a wall, lack of detail, not understanding that the percent of the percent of the percent in this particular aspect of the game, technique, fundamentals will be the difference in you holding a trophy or not. And I guess people that don't fight for that is what I have a tough time fathoming and would drive me up a wall.
Does it ever surprise you when people don't have it?
I don't judge. One thing I never want to do is sit on the seat and say, well, this is the way and that's the way. I just choose not to be around that, because football, I love football. Football is like, come on, man, there's nothing better in the world. And then I get to coach where I played, okay? And I think of, just in our state alone, no one can say that, So every single minute of every day dedicated to the University of Miami, it means that much more, And I want to be surrounded by people that feel the same way about the program. And luckily we have that. Like, I have an awesome staff. We work together. We don't work for, we work with each other. And that's a prereq, man. And you know what? When I was an assistant coach and I coached at Alabama, when I started as an assistant at Oregon, that was my vow. I'm going to work here as if I played here. I'm going to dedicate every ounce to it, because at the end of the day, and this I love, and I heard this from my mentor a long time ago, we need more people that are good for young people. The world does not have enough mentors and people that are good for young people. And if you have the opportunity, brother, you got to go, right? And you've got to pour every ounce that you have into it. And, you still have a life, no one's asking you to, be a complete martyr and give up everything, but you have to, the time that's allotted for your people, you have to completely dive into it.
Does this surprise you when you look at the temperament or mentality of your average player today? So they've got access to way more information.
Right.
They're connected way more to the world,
Yeah.
which could mean access to good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Does it surprise you that, on average, it seems like they're way better people? There's way less off the field issue than there would have been 20 or 30 years ago?
Does it surprise me?
I'm very surprised by it. I'm very surprised by it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody is much more inclined to be educated at the snap of a finger, right? A button or whatnot. I play with some complete just animals, you know what I mean? So I have a different perspective. And it was fun and they were awesome. And I think you're right. And I'll say this, I think they're smarter. I think they have access to more, like you said. And I think also we're in the day and age of NIL, they can do things that allow them to recover better, to rest better, sleep better. They have access to more information as to how they can better themselves as prospects for their current team, their position for the future. I think guys are getting more and more serious about their craft. I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. But I do agree with you. I think you do see less and less.
What was it like the other day watching this place just get flooded during pro day versus 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I was here for a pro day and did not know pro day was happening.
Right.
And I was in the indoor as pro day was going on. I was unaware that it was even occurring. So how radical was that 24-month or 36
like that
month
Animal
show?
House clip, right? Nothing to see here. All is well, right? Nothing's going on behind. But it was awesome, man. Those are, you know what? It is promise fulfilled, validated. Sitting there in those homes. Back then you were allowed to sit in homes. These new rules I can't stand. But anyways, we were able to sit in those homes and say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to elevate it. It's going to be incredibly hard. It's going to test you in every way possible. And at the end of this is how it's going to end. And that's how we projected it to end in the month of March. So 110 plus personnel here raving about our guys. What I love most is the way that NFL people were talking about our guys, how they handled themselves, how they answered questions, their level of football IQ, their background checks were off the charts, and then they loved the way that they played. That they played incredibly hard. We actually made a tape for our players on how we played the game here at Miami, and it's a flood of incredible highlights from the guys you saw out there. So it's a sign of things to come, right? Your program, typically, they reflect each other. The month of April reflects what happens during the season. You typically don't have a consecutive years, of course, consistent years of poor drafts and high-level teams, right? Usually high-level teams, high drafts, right? And it's cyclical. And I think we're approaching that, and all we got to do is work harder, do better, improve in every aspect, and just focus on us.
One of the fun things about college football is there are really good position groups or rooms out there that people are unaware of because it's not pro ball. You don't know the names as well. They haven't been around as long. So if people look at Miami right now, they know Malachi Toney. They know that name, and he just burst on the scene last year. Behind him, outside world probably looks at your receiver room and says, I wonder what else they have there. I know it's time to shut up and go to work. I understand all that.
Right.
But just like in terms of overall personnel there, how do you feel about that room?
Oh, I feel that room, and like the rest of the team has the ability to, I mean, sky's the limit for them. But I also know that, I know one team that could whoop our butt, and that's Miami, if we get in our own way. And if we buy into, all the accolades that are hurled this way and whatnot. So the approach is the same, man. I'm the most boring interview in sports, brother. I'm going to say the same stuff again and again and again. You know what? Because if the players saw me pouring accolades out on such a widely viewed, show, they'd think it's AI, first and foremost, and then they'd have me drug tested to make sure that I was okay, because we don't operate in that manner. But that being said, we do make sure that we praise effort and reward performance, and that room has really, it's up the caliber of length, size, speed, playmaking ability. And there's an excitement around that group that it's real. It's real. We just got to go out and prove it.
There's like a $10 bet on the staff whether you would even mention a player by name. And I won 10 there.
Did I mention a player?
No,
I didn't, right?
No.
There we go.
Cash in the pocket.
$10. I'll take 50%.
The one more thing I wanted to ask you is, if you're a high achiever, if you're really, really motivated and you get close to something, people slap you on the back. And you're kind of almost, you accept it and you appreciate it, but you're almost a little embarrassed by it because you're like, I haven't arrived. I haven't really done what you're congratulating me for doing. Right. And I know the kind of people that are in this building. Right. So I kind of already know the answer to the question, but I want to ask you, the experience of all the praise and all the adulation and whatnot being thrown your way, and good and well, your guts are ripped out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Is it almost like you nod and you smile and you're appreciative? You don't want to be disrespectful, but it kind of goes in one ear and out the other?
Positive anger, man. That energy burns clean. I'll say that. You take all those feelings that gut you. You take all those feelings that you're going to pour into the betterment of the people around you. Take all those feelings and you give them a direction, right? That direction right there out on Green Tree Practice Field, and you go to work.
Mario Cristobal, we appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.